Iman A asks, what do we do in the West? Are we betraying our brothers and sisters? I'm guessing that the implication is here that because due to virtue of the fact that we're in the West, I'm sharing content and making dua as much as I can. Is this enough?
To answer the question directly, I think it's better to have the Israeli defense minister, the former Israeli defense minister, answer this question. In 2021, when the Israelis were bombarding Gaza, when they went in, when they were saying that this was a terrorist threat, when they were mobilizing their $1 million PR industry to try to really paint the Palestinians as animals and to assert that their bombing of Gaza, their destruction, the slaughter and the like was justified, Benny Gantz hit a problem. And what he did was he summoned the directors of Facebook, TikTok and Instagram to an emergency meeting. The meeting was held very quickly within 24 hours. And he commanded or he asked them and he pleaded with them to take down #Palestine, to take down Palestinian content. The Israeli defense minister, who oversees all of the mobilization, who has the PR under his command, was asking the social media platforms in which ordinary people, ordinary Muslims were posting. He was telling them, guys, as part of this effort, it is breaking our control of the narrative, breaking our control of the monopoly. We are telling you to take this content down. And this is why when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," say, convey something from me, even if it's just an ayah, because he knew the value of what conveying even an ayah can make. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi," he who sees something that is wrong, let him change it with his hand. And if he cannot with his hand, let him change it with his tongue. And if he cannot with his tongue, let him condemn it in his heart. And that's the weakest of faith. Already, Sister Iman, you're in the second category. You're not in the lowest. You're already in that second category. You're already in an elevated status when you are sharing that content and pushing and the like. And you pushing it, not somebody who's got thousands of followers. You as the individual, you with your Twitter account or X account, you with your Facebook or Instagram or the like, you're the reason Benny Gantz summons TikTok, Facebook and Instagram to tell them to take down content. And you're the reason that the European Union, some of the officials who are sympathetic to Israel, are trying to push a motion to reimpose restrictions that some of the social media have lifted because they believe that they are losing the narrative war. And one of the reasons, and I'll make a very bold claim, because based on my analysis in terms of the politics, the reason there hasn't been a ground invasion yet is because the Israelis are concerned that the narrative is not yet in their favor, that everybody in the world has seen the destruction and the damar that they've done, and that because of protest in London, in Chicago, in Canada, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Rome, in Berlin, in Paris, in all of these capitals where protests were not supposed to take place, there's a deep concern that the public opinion is overwhelmingly against Israel, and that's why they're very wary that if they go in with a ground invasion, as it stands, if they go in with a ground invasion, and you, Sister Iman, and everybody here at Yaqeen Institute and everybody else making the efforts, if they go in with a ground invasion and these people and yourself are showing the world that Palestinians are human, not the animals that Israel has been insisting for so many decades with its monopoly of the narrative, then they will permanently lose global opinion. And that's why the US Secretary of State Blinken, when he went to Tel Aviv to show support, his intention was to go to Tel Aviv and come straight back to Washington. But in Tel Aviv, he announced he would launch a regional tour. And if you open Washington Post, today's article, or I have a time difference, so I'm not sure what's today and tomorrow, but if you open the Washington Post article, you'll see Blinken pleads with US allies in the Gulf to rein in the public backlash, to rein in the public opinion. He asks the regimes to help him to get you, Sister Iman, to stop publishing the content, to stop talking about the Palestinians, to stop raising awareness, to stop doing what for the first time since 1948 Convince the neutral, convince the one who was on the fence that this Palestinian is human and that he has legitimate cause. And that's why I think sometimes Muslims undermine their agency. They undermine the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. Allah, even amongst the prophets, وَرَفَعْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ دَرَجَاتٍ, that we elevated them in terms of status. Some prophets convinced their populations and Allah gave them success, such as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Some of them were promised success but never saw it, such as Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was told your progeny would be like the stars. Some prophets, they saw their people destroyed, Salih alayhi salam, Hud, and these others, Shu'aib and the like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delivers success as he wishes, when he wishes, in his own span, whatever he wants, Allah does. But the striving is ours. One thing that I always strike, and I know I've gone in terms of the answer to the question, but I really want to emphasize this point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and when I was younger, this ayah used to always strike me, it used to hurt my head a bit. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْجَنَّةَ وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَكَانَ سَعْيُهُ مَشْكُورًا. Allah didn't say وَكَانَتِ النَّتِيجَةَ مَشْكُورًا وَكَانَتِ التَّحْقِيقَ مَشْكُورًا. Allah says وَكَانَ سَعْيُهُ مَشْكُورًا. Allah doesn't say that the result is rewarded. He says the striving is rewarded. He who strives for Jannah and is a mu'min, Allah says the striving is thanked. The striving, because Allah is saying it's not you to decide whether you succeed or not. It's not you to decide what the outcome should be. It's not you to decide what course should be taken. Your decision is whether you want to strive for it. Your decision is if you want to take the steps within the powers that are available to you in order to achieve what you believe to be just and right, and you hope that Allah will guide you on that path, where if you're veering, he guides you back to the path. And that's why, to answer the question bluntly, and I'll wrap her up with this, you're asking yourself, what can we do? I feel like I'm betraying or the like, but wallahi alladhi la ilaha illahu, Blinken and Netanyahu sit together in a war room trying to find a strategy to get you, Sister Iman, to be quiet. They are trying to find a strategy to make sure that not Samil Hamdi or Imam Tom Fatin or Mikael or Smith or these others, to get them to be quiet. It's not about the big accounts, it's about the small ones like you, because the more you retweet and share, the more the algorithm favors your post. When the algorithm favors your post, it goes higher on the homepage. When it goes higher on the homepage, more and more people see it. And one of the things that I found quite fascinating, there is a very prominent analyst, he's often believed to be the father of the political risk industry that I work in, a guy called Ian Bremmer, prominent political analyst in the US. Ian Bremmer posted on Twitter and he said, I've never seen the levels of disinformation in my life regarding this conflict. What he means is, I've never seen so much pro-Palestinian content get onto my feed from the algorithm. I'm used to the sanitized version. I'm used to the pro-Israeli narrative, and I am stunned and shocked that the Palestinian voice has broken through. And wallahi alladhi la ilaha illahu, it has broken through because of people like you, Sister Iman, because of the ordinary Muslim who sits on his phone and says, Ya Allah, I want to use the powers that you gave me to make a difference. I fear that I am weak, but I am striving. I am striving within what I have, and Allah is rewarding that striving, and he is thanking that striving. And everybody can see that the occupier and colonizer is losing the war on narratives. That's why they had to spread fake news about atrocities that were committed, despite never giving proof. Consider this. We are being told by the Israelis what is happening, but being shown by the Palestinians what is happening. The reason being is the Israelis have nothing to show about what is happening that will prove their accusations, but the Palestinians have all the hujjaj and evidence in order to show and proliferate on social media. And that's why I think that the reality is that when I'm looking at things unfolding, I'll be honest with you, I'm speaking from London. I know you guys are in the US, but it's unprecedented. The loudness with which the ummah is roaring. It's unprecedented to see so many thousands of people across the world take to the streets and have everybody see that they are taking to the streets as well. It's unprecedented, so much so. And that's why when you look at mainstream media itself, they're using the word unprecedented. But the reason they're using the word unprecedented is because they've never seen a phenomenon of the ummah moving as one body. It was supposed to be divided. It was supposed to be weak. And now it's like a roaring, irresistible wave. So much so that CNN has had to apologize for its coverage. BBC has had to apologize for its coverage. Journalists peddling fake news have had to come out and try to rescue their integrity by admitting that they fell far short of journalistic standards. And the reason they did that is not because they were scared of the Israelis. Israelis congratulated them. They weren't scared of the Americans. Biden is openly supporting the Israelis. They weren't scared of the Europeans. It's you. It's the pressure you put. It's the loudness that you roared with. It's you who kept going on their back, demanding the proof, demanding the evidence, undermining the reputation, really going through and analyzing, investigating, using social media in an unprecedented way that they're using the word sorry. It's not even an ambiguous apology. They're saying we apologize and we're sorry and we should have done well. And that's because of you who were told that you had no power. You who were told that you were insignificant. That's why, and I go back to the first point, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا ينطق عن الهوى. He does not speak from emptiness or the like. إنه لوحي يوحى. He is somebody who Allah has revealed to. So when he says بلغوا عني ولو آية, he's saying that even the most basic individual, if you have no power, convey even an ayah from me, for it will make a difference. And that's why I think, to answer your question directly, Sister Iman, and also to address some of the points that I had hoped to address in what Imam Tom was going to ask, it's this point. The unique thing about everything that's unfolding before us is the fact that the overwhelming force and battle is not being fought by the politicians, it's by us. When Saudi Arabia, which has been removing the word colonizer from its official statements because it's been pursuing normalization of ties with Israel, when it goes back to calling Israel a colonizer, when the Saudi Crown Prince lifts the restrictions on dua in the Haram with regards to Palestine, you will have noted some imams have been taken off their minbar and the like for criticism of these policies. When he lifts that, it's not because he's changed his mind over normalization, it's because the overwhelming public opinion is making him hesitate and making him believe, I don't want to be caught on the wrong side of this public opinion. When the UAE comes out with a statement blaming the Palestinians after Blinken, Secretary of State, has called them and said to them, please give me a positive statement. When the UAE then announces aid to Palestine afterwards, after the backlash, that's because of public opinion. You are making a difference, Sister Iman. Everyone listening to this stream is making a difference. Everyone sharing it, retweeting it. Everyone sharing content, retweeting content. Everyone amplifying the voices of Palestinians, amplifying the voices of the activists, amplifying the voices. All of this is making a huge difference. And that's why I think, in terms of tangible, some people might say, okay, fine, it's higher on the algorithm. I truly believe the ground offensive hasn't happened because the narrative is not yet in favor of the Israelis, because they lost their grip in it. I believe that Blinken traveled all those hours from Washington to Tel Aviv and the regional powers because the public opinion is not ripe and he's desperate for it to be changed. When Sisi met with Blinken, Sisi, who, whatever your opinions about him, Sisi put the cameras on and lambasted Blinken with a lecture, telling him, you came here and you said you're a Jew. We've never oppressed the Jews in this region, rebuking him in public. It may well have been a political stunt, but it shows you that public opinion is in such a level that the leaders of the region do not want to be seen to be against the Palestinians. They don't want to be seen to be aiding the oppressor. They don't believe that there is any political expediency in setting aside the public opinion, as they're used to doing, in favor of the occupier. And that's because we are conveying walau ayah, because we are retweeting, because we are sharing, because we are shouting, because we are being loud, because we are mobilizing, because they are seeing that when you guys did the stream with Uwaymir Anjum and Omar Suleiman, may Allah reward them both, within one day it got to 230k, 240k. They're seeing these numbers, and I know, because I was hoping and thinking Muslim podcasts would reach the same levels, inshallah. But the point here being is they're seeing those numbers and they are saying, you know what, something here bad is happening. In London, only 10,000 were supposed to take to the streets. The police were ready for 10,000. More than 50,000 marched through the streets of London, causing a panic that even the politicians had to respond to. When you look around the world, that despite France trying to ban pro-Palestinian protests, the protests still took place. When you look at Rome, they deployed the police to push the protesters back. More protesters came out because there's an irresistible wave, and that's why the EU itself, Spain has come out and said, the EU, von der Leyen does not represent our position. We don't support Israel unconditionally. Von der Leyen put the Israeli flag on the European Parliament, the head of the European Commission. The European Foreign Minister, Joseph Borrell, told the press conference she has no right to do that. She has no right to speak on behalf of the EU. We decide foreign policy, not her. When there's a spillover of differences, that means that the divisions internally are so great and so fierce that they spilled over into the public. In other words, even the EU itself, as a result of the public opinion, as a result of what we're doing, they are tripping over themselves and contradicting one another with regards to the stances that they are taking. So the question here is this: Iman, your sister Iman's question implies that I feel a set of weakness, but wallahi alladhi la ilaha illahu, the Israelis are feeling your overwhelming power. The EU is feeling your overwhelming power. Blinken is feeling your overwhelming power. Bin Salman is feeling your overwhelming power. Bin Zayed is feeling your overwhelming power. Erdogan is feeling your overwhelming power. All of these governments are feeling the overwhelming power of the public opinion. And that's why, and I finish on this point, the greatest tragedy of this ummah is not that it's weak, but that it believes it's weak when everybody else believes it's strong. The greatest tragedy of this ummah is that it believes it doesn't have strength when the world still sees that it has strength, and that strength needs to be contained. I think it all boils down to this: Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decide the outcome, as he always has, in his own way, when he wants, in his own terms. The question that we ask ourselves, and that Sister Iman is asking, a very poignant question, and one that all of us are trying to fulfill here, is, given that we have the choice in striving, how are we choosing to strive? And because this ummah chose to strive over this past week, because it chose to strive to break Israel's monopoly on the narrative, to break the occupiers' monopoly on the narrative, we are seeing a resounding success in it. And I promise you, no matter what the outcome of what happens, even though it's heartbreaking what's unfold in Gaza, Bloomberg's front page 2 days ago was the fallacy that Israel can normalize with the Arabs without talking to the Palestinians has been blown apart. The Palestinians can no longer be ignored. The cause is no longer dead. The Palestinians are no longer a dying breed. Instead, the cause is roaring. Last week, we were looking at Netanyahu raising a map at the UN in which he erased Palestine completely, and then telling the people that normalization with Saudi will be the greatest deal since the end of the Cold War. Today, if I ask you, last week you felt despair about the cause. Today, everybody around the world, every policymaker in Europe, they're sitting with each other and saying, we told you so. There are officials turning around and saying, we followed the Americans, but here, look, the Palestinians are here. The Spanish minister has come out and said Netanyahu should be brought between an international criminal court. And we ask, are you EU partners? You can see that it's not just the Muslims denouncing it. It's non-Muslims who have been affected by your push in this war of narratives, and we are winning it. And that will have sweeping ramifications for how any peace deal or de-escalation comes about. The reality is this, and I promise to finish on this point. The reality is this: the reason Netanyahu is bombarding Gaza is not about bombarding Gaza itself. It's not because he wants to bombard Gaza itself, but because he's in a hysterical panic that last week he was telling the world the Palestinian cause is dead, and now the world is saying that it's alive. He's trying to pound the spirit and eliminate this roaring spirit that people are saying the Palestinians are alive. And that's why the Gazans are saying we're not leaving, because they recognize that they scored scored a body blow on Netanyahu. They know Netanyahu is lashing out, and that no matter how much he lashes out, he can't wipe away the humiliation. He can't wipe away the damage that the Palestinians have done, the moral damage that they've done. The idea being that these Palestinians who were supposed to be weak, who were supposed to have been abandoned, who were supposed to no longer have agency, have delivered the greatest body blow to Israel's image since 1948. When Netanyahu is attacking Gaza, our hearts are breaking at the death toll and the way the buildings are being damaged. But I promise you, Netanyahu is not doing it from a position of strength. He's doing it because this ummah has done something that has the potential now to change the entire course of what's taking place. And I'll finish on this example. In 1945, the French were celebrating their liberation from Germany after World War II. And they were writing a charter, every man is born free and the like, and the UN charter and the like. And then the Algerians took to the streets believing, mashallah, these guys are writing a lovely charter, every man is free. We want independence as well. According to the French declassified documents, they said that the number of Algerians coming out, it will threaten us. We're already struggling in Indochina. So we need to batter these Muslims. We need to batter these Algerians. We need to massacre them. We need to deliver on them a lesson so that they will never take to the streets again and they will never challenge us. In 1 week, they killed over 30,000. The French said they killed 12,000. The Algerians say they killed 50,000. I've gone for the middle number, 30,000. Let's try to avoid the exaggerations. And they were convinced that after they massacred them, in the same way they're talking about Palestine, that the cause is dead. They will never take to the streets again. They will never come out again. Their dreams for liberation are finished. Brothers and sisters, 17 years later, 132 years of French occupation colonization was finished. And the Algerians took to the streets and they said, Ya Muhammad, Mabruk Alik. Ya Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Mabruk Alik, Al-Jazair raj'at lik. Algeria has been returned to you. Inna ma'al usri yusra. After hardship comes ease. Allah is the one who knows. I have faith. My relationship with Allah is a positive one. Allah knows what He's doing. Allah is all aware. Allah, for those who are sad about the deaths as well, remember there was a lovely picture I saw on Facebook of they show the ghost of a baby girl put her hand around her father who's alive, and she says, Ya Abi la tahsan, I'm happy where I am. Allahu Akbar. I'm happy where I am. I'm happy with what Allah has given me. I'm happy. La tahzan ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين, they are happy, فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون الذين لم يلحقوا بهم. They are telling people like us who haven't met them yet. They're telling people like us, ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. They are not feeling any fear or sadness. No fear. يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء. They are saying that the ni'mah and barakah Allah has given us is such that do not be sad for us. We think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has abandoned the ummah. He's rewarded the shuhada. Yeah. He's rewarded them immediately. There's no limbo. He's rewarded them. Right away. The question is for us. I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what He's doing in His hikmah and His wisdom. The question, yes, Sister Iman and everybody here is, what do we do within the powers Allah has given us? And I swear to you, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, I swear by Allah, that Israel is pleading with social media to take your post down. That the Israeli allies in European Union are pleading to have your post down. And if it didn't have power, they would never take their time to do that. If it didn't have power, they wouldn't dedicate so much to it. And I think that it's because of people like you, Sister Iman, final sentence, that the Israeli ground invasion has not happened yet, because they're concerned that the narrative is not in their favor. Ya ibadallah, ballighu an Sayyidina Muhammad, walau ayah. Say something about the Prophet ﷺ, even if it's just an ayah, because we are changing the global opinion. And I'm telling you from what I've seen in my lifetime, and even what the elders are telling us, this is unprecedented. The shift is unprecedented. Human Rights Watch is now calling the Israeli regime an apartheid regime. It never used to. Amnesty is calling Israel an apartheid regime. It never used to. Apartheid is being used on the Congress floor. It never was used on the Congress floor before. These are victories that we should appreciate. These are victories that we should celebrate, because they're not victories that have come from top down. They're victories that have come from the Ummah mobilizing, and the Ummah saying we will never die, that we are ready to mobilize for the sake of the Ummah. And I will finish, and I promise this is the final sentence. What I love more than anything else is what this cause has shown is the Ummah from Malaysia, Australia, all the way to the US, because I'm going to say that we in London are in the middle, not you Americans. We're not going to go east, we'll go west. Will you come via London, inshallah? And I hope to host all of you in London, inshallah. But the point is, from Australia all the way to the Americas, I remember I had a comment in the Thinking Muslim podcast, and somebody said, we are upset that you didn't mention Colombia. Colombia is standing with the Palestinians. They've kicked out the Israeli ambassador. They were telling me, Sammy, don't forget, there are people in Colombia standing with the Palestinians as well. People in Latin America standing as well. Allah is changing the hearts, and they are terrified that the hearts are changing. And the reason they're changing is because of our efforts. May Allah reward us for our efforts, and may He give us the thabat. May He give us that heart, that steadfastness, not only to continue doing it, but also to appreciate the power Allah has given us. However small you might think it is, عند الله عظيم. To Allah, it is great.
판스 using grammar rules and then you speak. That's what I do that slow process completely bypasses the phonological loop. It is highly analytical, and that is why I sound like a robot, because I am building sentences like a mathematical equation, exactly. But when you do shadowing, hear the audio and you push it straight out of your mouth a half second later. You do not have time to translate. You do not have time to think about grammar. Well, you are forcing the sound directly through the phonological loop and into your vocal cords. You are building direct muscle memory in your mouth, tongue and diaphragm. I am starting to see the appeal. It takes the heavy thinking out of the process. How exactly do I practice this? You mentioned a half second delay. Are there different ways to do this? There are three main techniques and they each serve a slightly different purpose. The first is what we call synchronous shadowing. Synchronous, meaning synchronous, means happening at the exact same